Today is the grand opening of the Bart and Cherry Starr Museum. The museum, sponsored by Rawhide Youth Services, is located at Rawhide in New London. It showcases Bart and Cherry's character, values, and the essence of their life journey, providing inspiration to all who experience the exhibit. And they encourage all to come and see not just the famous football player, but two people who transformed the lives of everyone around them. And what shines the most within the exhibit, we're told, is the endless love Bart and Cherry had for each other. Better book a trip to Rawhide.
Those beautiful little letters that they saved for each other.
Yeah.
So neat to see.
Very special.